Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is another one of our car talk episodes, and today we decided to talk about car crashes and car fails that we've had, because between the two of us we've had quite a few, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's something that everybody's had. I don't think there's anybody who's ever been a perfect driver and had no incidents, or it doesn't even have to be a crash. It could be something as silly as dinging your door or something like that on a wall or something.
That's it. I think everybody. I think no matter how good you are, you've always had a car. You've either had a car that's been a lemon and has just had lots of fails, or you've had the odd dink or anything, or in my case, you've probably had loads of both. Yeah. In my defence, I believe that I've worked out roughly in my driving career, I've done something over 350,000 miles in my driving career so far, somewhere around there. So that's my defence before we get into it.
It's impossible for it to be fail-free, isn't it?
Yeah. But, I mean, did you want to go first with one of yours, or do you want me to go first? I don't mind either way.
Well, I think one of my earliest fails was one of my sisters lives down in Cornwall, and driving down there in my old B-Reg Fiesta once, there's a huge hill on the A30, nice lovely steep hill, and to be fair, if you've got cars of a certain power, you can get them to go flat out. And I managed to get my Fiesta go flat out, which unfortunately burnt out the relay for my windscreen wipers and my lights.
Yeah,
so
it must have been because it was screaming so much. It must have just spun the alternator too fast or something.
It was bouncing off the limiter, and so I couldn't drive it or leave my sister's if it was dark or raining.
Yeah.
And that was 30 seconds of fun, and then just absolute ball ache after that.
Yeah, I suppose one of my earliest ones would have been my first crash, I suppose, and that would have been my Metro. Not been passed for very long. I can't even remember what happened. I know something caught my attention on the other side of the car, and there was a bit of road out the side of the back of mine that had a triangle of grass around it, and the two roads kind of met up like that. And as I came down, there was a van parked there, and I caught the front bumper and ripped the front bumper.
I remember that, yeah.
Dispatch van. Yeah, that was one of my early ones. That was, yeah. The worst thing was, well, the guy who owned the van, he belonged to a family down there who was, I mean, to be honest, I always got on really well with them, really good, but they had a name for themselves of being quite... Not somebody's van you want to crash into. Yeah. I mean, he couldn't have been nicer about it, if I'm honest. He let me... I worked in a garage, so he was happy for me to take it in there, get the body shop boys to do their thing, get a new bumper put on it and everything like that. And I was paying that off for months. But yeah, but like I say, but we did get it all sorted, and yeah, fair play to him, good guy. And so we got it all sorted, and it was all amicable, and it was that was a massive fail. And because of that, I had a dink in the front of my Metro for the rest of the time I had it, and for the owners that had it after me, the front wing was caved in, and every time you opened the driver's door, it went across the wing.
Did you have to screw the bumper back into place as well? Yeah,
my bumper had to screw back into place, and I had to put an orange indicator bulb in where it smashed the indicator lens on the Metro, so it still had an orange indicator. I did gash it up as an apprentice at the time, so it was. But no, that wasn't my first crash either. No. Before I passed my test, I crashed my auntie's 1300 Maestro.
Really?
Yeah, she asked me to start it up for her while she was away on holiday, and I knocked it into first gear or it was in first gear. I can't remember. I was about 13, 14. I went to start it up, and it lurched forwards and kind of started, and there was a tree in front of it, and it went crunk into the tree and smacked the hole in the bumper. So that was my first fail. Yeah, that wasn't good.
Well, I think the first crash that I had was where it was me crashing the car rather than somebody crashing into me. Was on the back lanes through to Woolacombe.
Oh yeah.
And I was driving my GSI Veteran. For some reason, I decided that it was perfectly acceptable to do way faster than you should do through a set of S-bends, and then completely forgetting. Fortunately, one of the few sections of road where it was double lane, and my how was best to put this? I ran out of skill.
Did run out of talent, was it? Or...
Yeah, and I
understeered.
I understeered very quickly into a hedge. Fortunately, catching the front wheel on the bottom of the hedge rather than the actual car, because if I'd gone sideways into it, I would have flipped it.
Yeah.
And the front wheel took the brunt of the entire accident.
Yeah, because it completely missed the bodywork, didn't it?
Yeah.
'Cause funny enough, I was following in the car behind. Well, me and our friend Ali were, weren't we? And funny enough, literally seconds before it happened, I turned to Ali and said, "This is getting stupid. I'm going to slow down because otherwise I'm going to hit something." And then literally the next corner, and that was where it went a little bit Pete Tong then, unfortunately.
All dust.
Yeah. Although I'm glad you were okay.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm glad that it happened. Like I say, as horrible as it, I'm glad it happened as it did. I wish it didn't happen, but I'm glad it happened as it did, because it was probably...
It should have been way worse than it was.
Yeah.
People who have crashed at slower speeds have done way more damage to themselves and their cars.
Yeah.
And I just got completely fortunate that the front wheel caught the hedge rather than the bodywork or any other part of the car.
Yeah.
And also that there's nobody coming the other way.
Yeah, that is good. And it's, yeah.
So that's probably one of my biggest fails in a car, that.
Yeah, because, yeah, I mean, my one... I mean, I've had quite a few, I'm trying to think of. I mean, the next one, I suppose, for me would have been a mechanical fail. I had the Peugeot 306. We've been through about on one of our older videos. I hated that car. But it was the last straw for me before I sold it was... actually, my wife wouldn't let me sell it to start with. She had it first because she wanted that as an apparent upgrade to her Corsa.
Oh, right.
But it was... But, yeah, the bonnet catch let go, which apparently is common on them. I was doing 60 miles an hour in a 60 zone, coming around a corner, and the bonnet came up. And I remember I just seen it started to lift. I slammed the brakes on, but it was too late. It just went from being able to see to gold to black. And then I had to... I was really lucky because I actually ended up going up onto the mud on the left-hand side of the road, but because I knew in my head that there was road next to it, I pulled back off, landed it on the road really hard, and then I kind of Ace Venturia'd it out the window until I could see a farmer's gate on the right-hand side that I could pull into to peel the bonnet off the windscreen, and I jumped up and down on it, and it did actually click back in, luckily. I bent the middle in like that and jumped up and down on it, and it did kind of go click back in then, and I drove very slowly to work then, just in case it happened again, and it came back with that much force. It actually went back onto the roof and slammed the aerial for the radio into the roof and dented the roof as well.
That's crazy.
It was, yeah, that was scary, that was. The windscreen all was cracked and everything like that, and then when you went anything above 40 mile an hour, you could see the cracks getting bigger. That was scary.
I think the scariest one I had was I had a minibus.
Yeah.
That
was nasty, that one was.
It just went round a corner, and then there was a minibus in the middle of the road, and my first thought was, oh, it's overtaken something, and there was nothing there. And I had a tipper truck in front of me, and it was like time slowed down, and I just went, it's going to hit that tipper truck. And the next thing you know, everything sped up, and it went smack into the side of it, took the actual bed, which the guy had actually welded to the frame because he didn't want it as a tipper anymore, took the bed straight off and sent it down a lane. And then everything slowed down again. I went, well, it's going to hit me now. And then it just came straight across the front of me into my passenger side, wiped out my passenger side of my Vectra at the time, and went flying down the road into a field.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, once again, nobody was... Well, the driver was injured, but she wasn't badly hurt, and nobody on the bus was hurt, or me or the drivers of the car. But that was definitely my scariest one.
Yeah. Driver wasn't hurt, although I imagine that you and the guy in the tipper wanted to hurt her for falling asleep behind the wheel.
Well, that was the thing, is I never found out what caused it, because I wasn't sure whether she'd fallen asleep or she'd gone unconscious or she was drunk. But for whatever reason, she just came straight across the road into us.
Yeah. No, that's horrible, isn't it? That is. And it's... I mean, going back to my ones, I suppose a self-inflicted fail was I had brand new tyres put on my Cavalier once.
Yeah.
Back in the days we always meet up in car parks and that. And I remember it was on private land, by the way. It was me and a chap who had a red top Cavalier, because mine was the 8 valve. We had a burnout competition, and me being me, I didn't want to get beat because we'd been out and had a little bit of a dabble. His was faster than mine. So I didn't want to lose the burnout competition. I got into third gear on the burnout competition, and the only reason I stopped was because the tyre smoke started coming through the vents and I couldn't breathe anymore. So I jumped out the car, and I remember I jumped out the car, like that, nearly spewing my guts up because all I could taste was tyre smoke. And I remember I ran over and was sort of like kind of heaving by the front of a bunch of cars in a very macho way. And I remember turning around and looking at my car, and all you could see was smoke. And then you could see headlights coming through the smoke because it was night time.
Yeah.
And then you could see the car with the driver's door still open and tyre smoke billowing out from the inside. And I annihilated a set of tyres that were a day old because of my pride. And that was a massive self-fill, that was. And the guy who I was doing it against, his dad owned the tyre place. So he could burn out as many tyres as you want.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that at the time, did I?
Another fail I had was misjudging a grass verge and thinking it was just grass.
Yeah.
And then finding out very quickly that just behind the grass was a massive boulder, and trying to do a 3-point turn and then just almost just denting in the front of my car on this massive boulder.
Oh, bugger.
Which was that's the only thing with the Southwest is sometimes they're hedges and sometimes they're just green walls.
Was that when you were in there with an ex?
Yeah.
I remember that I had a fairly similar I had a fairly similar fail in my Cavalier again. I had, as it was back in all the rage back in the day, I had red underglow neons, didn't I?
That's right, yeah.
And me and an ex were in a car park and needed to get out there pretty quick. And I went over a grass lump, and because the ground clearance of my car was quite low, I went over it and it landed the centre of the sills on the grass.
Oh no!
And smashed the two side.
Oh, gutted.
Neons, yeah. So it didn't actually smash them like bits everywhere, but they never worked after that. Yeah, that wasn't good. So that was a fail of mine as well. That was just trying to get out of there pretty quickly. So yeah, that was misjudgment on my part as well. And
I think my most recent fail was not long after I bought my house. Was I got quite a steep driveway, and we did have railings originally coming down on steps, and I'd always reversed onto the driveway because that was the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I wonder what it'd be like just driving up. And unfortunately, because of the steepness of the driveway, it wasn't long before all of a sudden you were looking at the driveway and you're actually looking
up at the sky.
Yeah. And I completely misjudged where I was on the driveway. I ended up putting my car straight into the wall on the other side and just scratching right up the side of my car.
Yeah.
And I thought, of all the times I decided to drive up rather than reverse up, and that was a massive fail.
Yeah, she's still got the scars on her now.
Yeah.
Bless her. But it's, I mean, that was just, those ones that I've gone on about, they were like when I was between 17 and 18. I haven't even got to my 30s yet. Because, I mean, after that, what did I have after that? I had a few years of being okay for a while. I mean, I had little fails in work, silly little things, but like...
Well, you had a couple of years where July was a bad month for you, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Every July, nearly a year to the date, I had 3 different Cavaliers and got all 3 of them written off. I was on my way to work one morning in Gurley, which was my saloon, black SRI, sat at a set of traffic lights, looking at the lights, it changed green. I put it in first gear, put my foot on the accelerator, started going. The next thing I felt was just boom from behind, and to the point where, to start with, the first thought was that my fuel tank had gone. I thought my fuel tank had gone bang, because the back of the car raised and went forwards like that. What the hell was that? And I was like, shit, because I remember I was reaching for my seatbelt to try and undo it, thinking my fuel tank had gone.
Yeah.
And then when I looked in the rearview mirror, all I could see was a brand new Fiesta with a girl with her head in her hands like that. When I spoke to her, she said she saw the light change, but didn't see me half asleep first thing in the morning. We just went straight at the back of me because I was the last car in the line of cars.
Yeah.
And she just came up doing 30 and didn't slow down for 30. And
Bloody hell.
That wrote Gurley off. I had a replacement SRI, which was probably the cleanest one I ever had, which was a hatchback 16 valve SRI. Stunning car. Same colour and everything. I couldn't have found one that was more a perfect replacement. And that one was lovely. And I was waiting to turn right into a junction off of a road that kind of, it's hard to describe, it was a bit of an S bend, and there was a turn into the right I was turning into to go home after going to the shop, and a taxi driver came flying around that corner doing a lot more than 30.
Yeah.
Because when I looked, it was clear. As soon as I pulled over into his lane, that was it, bang. And that was what damaged my ankle. And he hit me so hard. I had the car back from the, I actually had the car back from the impound because I wasn't sure how salvageable it was, and
Yeah.
that car did save my life. I knew the airbags had gone off and everything like that. It hit me that hard in the front, head on. It shortened the car by about 1.5 feet. And the shock that went through me, the reason my left ankle suffered was because I put, obviously when you're in a crash, first thing you do, foot on the brake, on the clutch. The brake pedal was a bit spongy, so that absorbed the impact. The clutch pedal was on the floor and I was shoving it as hard as I could, so the impact went up through my ankle and damaged all my ligaments and tendons. But it actually hit the car that hard that behind me, underneath the rear seats where the fuel tank was, it ruptured the fuel tank because that had a leak afterwards. And when I looked underneath, it actually twisted the chassis to the point where it bent my tow bar like that, because it had a tow bar on the back. So it actually bent the car from front to back. It had like a concertina effect, like an organ thing. And that poor car saved my life, and I was gutted that one went. And then I replaced it with the white 1.8 LS, which I had until not long ago when I sold it on for someone else as a project. And that one, the following year, again in July, my wife and my kids were out in a caravan over in West Wales. I was nipping into the shop on the way because I just finished work on a Friday. I was going to go out and see them. Pulled in, the van in front of me, I saw the reverse lights come on, hit the horn too late, reversed straight back in the front and took my front bumper off. However, that one didn't write the car off. It didn't go through insurance because the guy said to me, "Do you want to go for insurance?" I was like, "No, I've already had 2 Cavaliers written off. I don't want a third one." And that was that was the 3 Julys in a row. After that, I went and brought a Beamer, and I survived the July after that. Touchwood. So it was 3 years in a row, 3 Cavaliers. 3 crashes, not one of them was my fault, and it wrote 2 out of the 3 Cavaliers off then. And that was pretty harsh. That was a horrible few years. It was every year I had a crash of some kind. I'm just trying to think of any other fails I've had.
I'm trying to think as well.
I had a few with works vehicles.
When I
worked for Greco, I worked for a generator company. We were sent into mid Wales in the middle of a snowstorm. Absolutely, it was horrible roads, treacherous going up there. Because me being me, I got into the job. We got up there. There was a generator gone down that was running an entire work site. So I worked my ass off getting this generator up and running. Got it up and running. Everyone was happy. However, the one thing I didn't notice is it carried on belting snow down whilst I was working on the generator. So me and the yard hand went to go back. Didn't know where he was, following the sat nav, ended up going through a little lane, and there was a corner that went like that, hit that corner, hit black ice, and the van just went straight, and then straight up onto a farmer's hedge like that.
Oh, no way.
Took most of the front of the van off. And a woman in a Land Rover that we'd gone past a minute ago, we jumped out the van, we were trying to flag her down just to pull us back a little bit, because the front wheel on the passenger side was off the floor, so we couldn't get it to reverse back out. And this woman in a Land Rover just drove past, and we were there like that, and she was just like that, trying not to look at us as she drove past. I was like, "You bastard!" And but then luckily a farmer came down with a tractor and a chain, and he dragged us out. And like he said, as long as I don't get blamed for it, I said, "Mate, if you can get us out so I can go home, I will take all of the blame for any damage you do. It's fine, even if you pull the back of the van off." And that was one. I had a couple of stupid little ones in my yellow van before that, like my Vivaro I had. That one, I accidentally clipped someone's wing mirror once in a transit. That was just me misjudging a gap. Other than that, it was just silly little things like scratches on branches and things like that. I mean, again, doing loads of mileage, it was silly things. The orange van I had, just as I was leaving, I was reversing out of a parking bay, but I'd gone in there, and then the bin men had come around and moved loads of bins around everywhere. So I had a tiny little gap. I thought I had more room than I did, and I caught the back of a Toyota Auris.
Oh, bugger.
And scratched all the back bumper and dented my side door in on that one. That was, again, that was a poor judgment on my part, that was. I'm not going to make excuses. That was just poor judgment on my part. That was just terrible judgment. More recent ones, I suppose. I had a Transit Custom that I was driving home, again in the snow and ice and everything. After a day at work, driving home, I'd driven through these lanes earlier on in the day. It was fine. Didn't think about the temperatures dropping. Drove back through them to go home about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. Hit a patch of black ice on a bend that went down like that and ended up just sliding off into a ditch. That one I didn't feel too bad about though, because I was sat in the van. I sat there and went, "Oh well, F word." And I was sat on the phone to the boss, and I told him what had happened. I was like, "Sorry, this has just happened. Is there anyone that can come and drag me out?" because it was like slow motion. I literally just went dink into it.
Yeah.
And the only damage I did to it is where the van went into the ditch like that. It kind of rested against a tree like that, so it just it put a dimple in the back panel.
Yeah.
So it didn't actually cause that much damage, but yeah, I was sat there on the phone to the boss, and I remember it was the surrealist thing because I remember I sat on the phone, I told him what was happening, and then all I heard was bang behind me. And then I just heard a guy's voice going, "Oh fucking hell!" So I was like, "Give me a second. I think something's just happened behind me." I jumped out and there was a guy in a 4x4 who'd slipped on the same patch of ice, gone into the ditch behind me. But before he hit the back of the van, he hit a concrete post behind me.
Oh no way!
So if I'd have gone in a little bit earlier, I'd have hit a concrete post. But I missed that, and he missed me because of it. But he got out and drove off, and I made sure his truck was okay to drive, and then he drove off, and was like, "Oh, I don't need pulling out or nothing." Cheers then.
Yeah.
So I had to wait for a flatbed, so that was another one. But that same van, it was waiting to go in the body shop then.
Yeah.
I was coming around a roundabout, and I saw a girl at the roundabout coming off the motorway, and she looked left, not right at the roundabout, went straight into the side and took the other side out. That poor van looked like a squeezed tube of toothpaste by the time it went into the body shop. And that I got nicknames at work because of that. One of them being Hammond.
Yeah.
one of the old bosses had just said, like your driving record is one that would rival Richard. The other one was Crash Bandicoot. So I had little name tags that said Crash on them. So yeah, that was I've got a bit of a name for myself. I have had a few mishaps really. Trying to think if I've had any in the current cars really. I don't know if I have. Nothing that's caused damage, anyway.
No.
Yeah, I might have had mishaps, but not ones that have been noticeable. Touch wood.
Yeah.
Touch wood, I'm going to crash on the way home now if I don't touch wood.
But yeah, if you guys have had any car fails or crashes or anything like that, let us know.
Yeah.
It's like I say, nobody's perfect, unfortunately, and
well, no, I mean, we haven't even talked about our wives in this one, have we?
Oh, it'd be about an hour long, wouldn't it?
Mine blew a Vectra engine up. And she crashed my Cavalier, the first one that I fell in love with. So yeah, that's So
mine crashed at 5 mile an hour into a street light surround. And
oh yeah, that bent all the suspension as well, didn't it? That did a hell of a lot of damage considering how slow she was going.
It did more damage to her car hitting it at 5 mile an hour than me going 90 into that hedge.
Yeah. I would have said it was at least on par, if not worse, definitely than what you did to that Vectra. Well, the Vectra, we were able to drive up to the next pub, weren't we, to park up ready for the trailer.
All I did to the Vectra was I turned the wishbone from a triangle into a banana.
Yeah, and
I put a bit of mud in the rim.
Yeah,
whereas that one almost wrote the front of her car off.
Yeah, and you couldn't move that. Yeah, actually, the Vectra was less because we managed to drive that Vectra to the local pub car park to wait for a trailer and have a pint.
Her car stayed where it was till the recovery turned up.
Yeah, because it couldn't move.
So yeah, we best not go into those because we will be. That could be a several parter.
Yeah, and it might cause divorce. I don't think they'd be happy with us divulging the information we already have.
But if you want to talk about your partner's crashes, feel free.
Yeah, if you want to tell us what mishaps you've had or what fails you've had, and yeah, I mean the only other thing we didn't talk about was saves. But to be honest, I can't think of anything that failed that I saved really.
No, me neither.
Well, none that I really want to talk about on camera.
No.
But with that, guys, I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you've had a nice laugh at us.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.